I am 78 years old, and I have spent a long part of my life living alone. After my wife passed away, people kept saying the same kinds of things to me. It will be hard to get used to. The house will feel too quiet. No one should grow old alone. I knew they didn't mean any harm. Maybe they were just trying to protect me. And back then, I even thought they might be right. How could a person not feel incomplete after losing someone they had shared a home with for so many years? But time passed. Days turned into months, and months turned into years. And somewhere deep inside me, I realized something very quiet, but very clear. I was not lost. I was not half of who I used to be. My life was not over. It had simply become quieter, and I began to learn the most important parts of life right there, inside that silence. The first thing I learned was this: being alone and feeling lonely are not the same thing. When I was younger, I always thought they were, as if a person must feel empty the moment they are alone. But life showed me that this was not true. I have felt real loneliness, even when someone else was in the house. I have seen people sitting in the same room, yet not truly hearing each other. I have sat at tables where there were conversations, but no one was really listening. That was loneliness. It was not about how many people were around you. It was about whether there was a connection that truly touched your heart. Today, my home is quiet. There is no television left on in the background. There are no forced conversations just to keep the silence away. And in this silence, I can hear myself more clearly. Because when you are alone, sometimes you breathe freely for the first time. You do not have to pretend you are fine for anyone. If you have nothing to say, you do not have to speak. Many people are afraid of being alone because they think silence means something is missing. But silence is not always emptiness. Sometimes it is the most honest space a person can give themselves. If there is even one person who truly knows you, if there is someone who calls you sincerely, even once a week, then even if you are alone, you are not lonely. The second thing I learned was that every person needs their own rhythm. When you live with someone, you do not always notice how your days are being shaped. You wake up together, you eat together, things happen at certain hours, and most of the time, you simply follow that rhythm. But when you start living alone, the day can suddenly lose its shape. You may not notice where the morning begins or when the evening arrives. One day passes like it is just a continuation of the day before, and by the time evening comes, it feels as if the whole day has slipped through your hands. That was when I understood the value of small rituals. I started waking up at the same time every morning, not because I had to, but because I wanted to give myself a beginning. I made my tea. I sat by the same window, with the same cup. I watched the world outside, not to think about anything grand, but simply to remember that the world was still turning. When a person builds their own rhythm, they do not get lost in the silence. They know when to stop. They know when to continue. And sometimes, they learn that a day does not need to be filled with great achievements to be valuable. Sometimes, it is enough for a morning to begin. A cup of tea is enough. A few minutes by a window is enough. Because order does not always come from having people around. Sometimes, a person builds their own order on the quietest days. The third lesson was this: have something that needs you. When you live alone, some mornings it can be hard to get out of bed. Not because you are sick, not even because you are too tired, but simply because it feels like nothing is waiting for you. No one asks, "Are you awake?" No one waits for you at breakfast. No one acts as if the world has fallen out of order just because you woke up a little later. And sometimes, that can make a person feel invisible. That was when I realized how much meaning a small responsibility can carry. It could be a plant, It could be a bird waiting to be fed every morning. It could be a simple task that needs to be done regularly. What matters is not that it is big. What matters is that it quietly reminds you. Your being here changes something. When something needs you, the day begins with meaning. You do not sink too deeply into your own mind. Your hand reaches for something. You fill a bowl with water. You open a window. You touch a living thing, a routine, a life. And over time, you understand. It is not only that they need you need them too. Because even the smallest bonds can keep a person connected to life. The fourth lesson was learning to be selective with people. When I was younger, I thought being surrounded by many people meant success. More friends, more invitations, more conversations. I thought these were signs of a good life. But as you grow older, you begin to understand that your energy is not endless. Not only your body gets tired, your heart gets tired too. Your mind gets tired too. There are some people who make you feel smaller after you leave them, as if they have taken something from you. And then there are people who do not say much. But when you are with them, you feel calmer, more complete. Over time, I learned this. Not everyone you know has to be close to you. Not every connection has to be maintained. Not every conversation deserves space in your life. When you start living alone, you have less patience for meaningless noise. You value a real question more than empty talk. You prefer a silence that truly listens over a long conversation with no soul. Very few people remained in my life, but the ones who stayed were real. I did not have to pretend with them. We were not uncomfortable when silence came between us. And now I know this is not loneliness, it is quality. One person who truly knows you is worth more than dozens of people who only know your name. When you choose who you allow into your life, you also begin to see more clearly who you are. And a person who knows who they are is not as afraid of being alone as they used to be. The fifth lesson was learning to enjoy my own company. That was not easy, because when you are alone, you cannot run away from yourself. There is no crowd to hide behind. There is no noise to disappear into. In the mirror, there is only your own face, and inside, there is only your own voice. For a long time, I avoided asking myself this question. When I am alone with myself, am I okay with who I am? From the outside, it may seem like a small question, but it is one of the biggest questions that waits quietly inside a person. I used to think there was something strange about me because I preferred being at home. I thought I was somehow lacking because I would choose a book over a crowded gathering. I felt guilty when I wanted to leave noisy places early, but over time, I understood. It was not silence that was exhausting me. It was comparing myself to other people. When I accepted that I did not have to live like everyone else, a strange lightness began inside me. I love slow mornings. I love hot tea that is not rushed. I love thinking in a quiet room. And sometimes, I love not thinking about anything at all. And I no longer apologize for that. When a person learns to enjoy their own company, being alone stops feeling like a punishment. It becomes a place of rest. You do not look for other people just to fill the silence. You let them into your life because you truly want them there, not because you need them. The sixth lesson was learning not to be afraid of silence. For a long time, I ran away from silence. I did it without even realizing it. The radio would be on at home. The television would be running. Sometimes, I was not even watching it. I just wanted there to be some kind of sound, because I thought silence meant absence. When everything around me became quiet, it felt as if something was missing. But as the years I spent alone grew longer, there came a point when there was no more noise to run to. There was only me. There was the house, and there was silence. At first, it was uncomfortable. It felt as if something was about to happen, and I was waiting for it, as if there was some unnamed emptiness inside me. But the longer I stayed inside that silence, the more I saw that it was not my enemy. Silence does not judge you. It does not rush you. It does not ask you to explain yourself. In that space, the memories you have buried for so long slowly rise to the surface. You remember the people you have lost, the chairs that stayed empty, the voices you no longer hear. And yes, sometimes things come up that hurt your heart. But over time, you understand this. Not every pain is a problem that needs to be fixed. Sometimes pain is proof that you truly loved. When you are no longer afraid of silence, you stop running from yourself. You sit, you breathe, you listen, not to find an answer, but simply to see what is inside you without denying it. And one day, you understand how real the peace can be when it comes without noise. This peace is not big, bright, or loud. It is slower, it is calmer, but it is more real. When I look back today, I know this. Silence is not proof of loneliness. Sometimes it is what being whole looks like. Living alone is not a defeat. Being content with less is not a failure. A quiet life does not mean an incomplete life. I did not share these 6 lessons to tell you how you should live. I only shared how I learned to stay in the silence, to stay with myself, to stay in a life that does not need to prove itself to anyone else. If you are living alone too, and on some nights you ask yourself, is there something wrong with me? My answer is this: no. There is nothing broken in you. You are not incomplete. You are not behind. Some people are simply made for a quieter life, and a quiet life can still be whole. If any part of this story touched you, know that you are not alone in what you feel. Even if you write just 1 sentence in the comments, maybe someone else will feel a little less alone. Send this video to someone who may be struggling quietly. Maybe they need to hear a voice like this today. And subscribe, because in this small space, we choose to speak slowly and listen truly. Thank you for staying until the end. Life can be quiet, but that does not mean it is lonely.